It's no joke that Elon Musk is seeing Mars even when he closes his eyes. The 21st century billionaire has nothing stopping him from fulfilling his dream to own the red planet. Can you remember earlier when Elon Musk said that the Booster 7 rocket will be fired by 33 Raptor engines? Of course, it was a scary statement that we all thought would only end as fallacy. Like, what sort of vehicle on Earth runs on 33 powered engines? Such a vehicle may be ambitious to run and compete with the speed of light, but it's proven before our eyes that the booster has been fully tested with 33 Raptor 2 engines without any flaws. We didn't all believe this will work, but reflecting back to a motivational quote that says, "The power of consistency cannot be measurable by any virtue. We can stop doubting and just believe in SpaceX and Elon Musk." Another thought we should be curious about is, how can Elon's ambition of landing on Mars be feasible? Well, let's not use any quote to back up the answer for now, since it's not yet in our reality. In today's episode, we will discuss more about how SpaceX tested 31 Raptor engines, then moved on to test 33 Raptor engines on the same Booster 7 rocket. Booster 7 rocket was prepared overnight to face physical thermal expansion on the 9th of February. The first phase of the testing was conducted using only 31 Raptor engines, and it was successful. SpaceX tweeted, "Super Heavy Booster 7 completed a full static fire test of 31 Raptor engine, producing 7.9 million lbf of thrust, less than half of the booster capacity." 2 hours after the tweet that brought a sudden excitement in the mind of SpaceX fans, Tesla Economics tweeted, "If this doesn't motivate you, I don't know what does. 33 boosters have been successfully tested, and now it's time to launch a Starship into orbit." There was a leap of celebration for the successful static fire test, and fans couldn't hold their breath in an intoxicated excitement. Many fans were seen hailing SpaceX while raising placards in the air to show the company how much they are happy and proud to see the raving success of the Starship. The number of people that watched the test scene was more than 110,000, as revealed by a live stream broadcast by NASA Spaceflight, an independent space media company that has cameras monitoring the Starship test site in Boca Chica, Texas. As shown in the video, clouds of vapor that looks more like heavy smoke from a terrible storm enveloping the launch stand when propellant started flowing into the rocket, and rings of ice-cold frost began to form around the rocket as the tanks filled with the ultra-cold propellant. The clouds mostly vanished when the fueling was completed. Unlike the last wet dress rehearsals, the tanks were not filled to the brim. During this test, the engines roared to life for a few seconds and shut down, kicking up that rose clouds above the rocket and prompting masses of birds to flee the area in uncountable groups. Though it was intended to test 33 Raptor engines, according to Mr. Musk on Twitter, one engine turned off during the test and another one turned itself off. But even in such a situation, 31 of 33 engines would be enough to reach orbit during a launch. The static fire of the Super Heavy booster happens to be the latest big technical hurdle that SpaceX needed to accomplish before getting ready for a flight attempt. Gwen Shotwell, the company's president and chief operating officer, called the test a big day for SpaceX during a conference in Washington, D.C. She also noted that the static fire is the final ground the company can do before lighting up the engines to attempt a first flight test, a test that is liable to send the Starship rocket into orbit for the first time. You shouldn't forget too soon that no other rocket in historic existence used up to 33 engines. The closest comparable is the Soviet Union's N-1 rocket, which used 30 NK-15 liquid-fueled engines in its first stage. You can guess better that these engines were not as powerful as the Raptor 2 rocket engine. So, 33 Raptor 2 engines are the highest rocket engines that has been fired under any rocket in history. You'll be right to say SpaceX has broken a record by using 33 Raptor engines under the booster. And, of course, the N-1 was a massive failure, but it made the challenge to compete with NASA's Saturn V rocket and form the backbone of a Soviet moon program. Though the N-1 rocket attempted 4 launches from 1969 to 1972, all unluckily ended in a blast. Its second launch, which happened just 2 weeks before the Apollo 11 moon landing in July 1969, destroyed the launch complex as it failed and exploded a few seconds after liftoff. That tells us the level of incompetent or amateur engineers that worked on the N-1 rocket. And that's the history before SpaceX today, as the company successfully tests the Super Heavy booster by igniting all its 33 Raptor engines for a few seconds, with the rocket held firmly on the launch mount. Keep in mind, this first one is really a test flight, said Shotwell, who is aware of the outcome of the failures of other historic test flights carried out on rockets having multiple engines. The real goal is not to blow up the launch pad. That's why SpaceX had to test the 33 Raptor engines for a few seconds. You know, SpaceX won't want to initiate any testing phase that will lead to failures, so that money spent on production will not be wasted, and also investors and fans will not have a disbelief about the potential of the company. Hence, for now, all testing has to be done on a low key. Another reason is since so many assets are clustered in a small area near the Gulf of Mexico, which are quite expensive. For example, the bays, propellant tanks, cranes, and other equipment that serves as a vital function to the company, SpaceX really does not want to risk destroying infrastructure it has spent years building and testing. The aftermath would set the Starship launch campaign back to months. It would also probably redouble regulatory concerns that were raised as part of a Federal Aviation Administration's process to clear the South Texas location for experimental orbital launches. It should also be of concern that SpaceX is still expecting a license from the FAA to move forward with an orbital flight test. In an interview, the company made it clear that the FAA will make a license determination only after the agency is satisfied SpaceX meets all licensing, safety, and other regulatory requirements. Shotwell believes SpaceX can present all 75 mitigation actions imposed on the company to qualify for an environmental approval. In her words, she said, "There will always be work to do there. I think we'll be ready to fly right at the time frame that we get the license," referring to the FAA licensing process. When discussing SpaceX's goal of sending the first Starship mission to Mars, Shotwell acknowledged the tendency to share deadlines that cannot be fulfilled. Again, have you observed that Elon Musk is not always sure of any launch date? Like if he says the Starship will launch first thing tomorrow morning, my friend, always take it with a pinch of salt, because you'll be on the waiting line and the Starship will not be launched as claimed by Musk. So always keep your ears on the news to know the real thing. And even SpaceX president affirmed this when she said, "We're so bad at guessing timeframes. For sure, this decade we will be landing people on the moon. For sure, if not a few years from now. And for Mars, hopefully this decade, maybe early next decade, 2030. So you see for yourself, it's best to always keep your ears to the news to know better." Shotwell previously explained that she hopes the company will conduct more than 100 orbital test flights of Starship before putting humans on board, since the company has more work to do to help NASA carry out its moon landing program with the Artemis 3 mission, which is scheduled for 2025. When Shotwell was asked whether launching NASA's astronauts will be feasible by 2025, she said, "That target was still feasible. I don't think we will do 100 flights of Starship next year, but maybe in 2025 we will do 100 flights." From your observations, do you think SpaceX will launch the fully stacked Starship into space this year? Please consider they have already announced Starship's first orbital launch attempt, so the wait is almost over. Just click on the video to know more about this.